I'm Robbie Thigpen, and welcome to the Sargassum podcast.
I'm Jenna Contuccio.
And I'm Francisca Elmer, and we are your hosts for today. We are going to share with you the latest ideas and concepts about Sargassum and Sargassum beaching events, which have become an international challenge. Let's get ready to learn together.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robbie Thigpen here with you today. I'm here with Francisca and Nina and Daria, who I thought was going to be a cartoon, but she turned out to be a real person. We're going to get ready to learn together.
Yeah, and Robbie, today we don't have Jenna, our new co-host, with us because she had a power outage. And you told me it's not a power outage because she lives in a rural village or because she didn't pay her bill. Why did she have a power outage, Robbie?
Well, apparently, Southern California got a lot of this storm that's wreaking through the states right now. There's a lot of wind, and I guess there's power lines down. And also, but we're experiencing some really weird weather here in the states right now, as I think we are all over the planet. And I briefly chatted with her this morning, and she seemed to be okay. She's just a little bit frustrated that her phone's about to die. Because I was going to charge it this morning, and now it is what it is. So did you do anything fun this week?
I worked all week, including the weekend, on our X-Prize submission for Seafields. So I didn't do anything fun, unless you consider that fun. It was rather stressful, but we put it in yesterday. So now we just have to hope that we win one of the 15 prizes.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. What is our agenda?
Our agenda today is talking to Daria and Nina. And Daria and Nina are part of Seasoilution. This is an Enactus Munich project that works on turning Sargassum into Biostimulant, which is a type of fertilizer or similar to fertilizer, for local farmers in the Dominican Republic. Enactus Munich is the biggest student social entrepreneurship initiative in Munich, Germany. So Daria, Parshina, works on business development for Seasoilution, and she just started a job as digital consultant analyst and is still working on her master's degree in management and technology at the TU in Munich. And Nina Bangert works on the production side of Seasoilution, and she's working part-time as a student coach at TU Munich Center for Key Qualifications, and is doing her master's in industrial biotechnology at TU Munich. Welcome, Daria and Nina, to our podcast.
Hi.
Let me throw a question out there that we should have asked before the meeting here today, and I think that maybe Francisca got it right, but I don't think I would pronounce it correctly. What is
Seasoilution?
How do you say that word?
So it's
Seasoilution.
Soil.
One more time, please.
So it's a word play on soil and solution.
So it's simply a compound word to describe what you're doing. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We usually get started off by asking just one simple question of both of you, and we ask this to everybody that comes on here, and we want to start with you folks as well. Tell us what Sargassum means to you personally. Not necessarily a project, but what it means to you personally. Thank you.
Okay, I would start on that one. So to me personally, and probably to many listeners, it is just a brown stinky algae. Nina has a different opinion, and then we can also talk about our team's opinion.
To me, it's more of a habitat because I just haven't really seen the negative impacts of it firsthand. And to me, I've just only ever seen healthy kelp beds in California. So to me, I haven't really seen the stinkiness of it as much. But yeah, to me, it's fascinating.
But for us as a team, it's just a great opportunity to make an impact actually, because due to the climate change that Robbie just mentioned earlier, there is more and more Sargassum nearby the shore areas, which despite great properties of Sargassum itself, causes significant trouble for marine ecosystem and local communities out there. So we use something that is a plague to turn it into an opportunity for agricultural and economic growth in that areas.
Very nice. Thank you.
So the name Seasoilutions, as you already explained what it is made out of, gives it away a bit. But what are you exactly working on with Sargassum?
Yeah, so I know that most of the listeners that listen to this podcast probably already know a lot about sargassum. So, but I still just quickly wanted to recap why it is a problem. So, the places where sargassum grows in excess are usually places with high nutrient densities, caused by a combination of things, really, but also leakage of fertilizers, human waste into the ocean, as well as just that areas are heated because of increased water temperatures, also a side effect of climate change, and it just this problem keeps expanding into different areas as well. And yeah, it grows in very thick, dense, deep patches of seaweed that reduce the oxygen and light in the areas below as well. So, and that can actually cause dead zones and sometimes, wipe out ecosystems that live in the oceans below. And yeah, I think it was estimated, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's somewhere around several thousand megatons of sargassum floating around. So it's just a large problem. And yeah, so furthermore, just when the algae washes ashore, it has an impact on the land animals and the animals that spend at least part of their life on the beaches, like hatching sea turtles. And yeah, so and you also have tourism, which obviously it smells bad and it's really far from the pristine white sand beaches that you'd want to see on a vacation. So as Daria said, for most people, it's just a brown slimy blob. And I doubt many tourists share all of our passion for sargassum. So yeah, all of these problems have been addressed in previous podcasts from you guys. So I just for anyone that's coming in from our side of things, I thought it would be interesting for them to hear about some of the problems. But yeah, but in general, to come back to your question, what we're working on is that we're actually using the sargassum to produce an organic fertilizer and a plant biostimulant. So in general, most people probably know what a fertilizer is and that it's mainly used in agriculture and it contains nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, and sometimes some other trace nutrients, and it provides the plants with scarce nutrients that limit the plant growth in usual, like in just everyday environment on the fields. So biostimulants, on the other hand, they can also contain nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, but they can also contain other substances or molecules that can increase the plant's resistance to stress. So this is really important, obviously, because of increased environmental pollution overall, which is happening everywhere, and which just stresses the plant's immune systems. But the tropics in general are also just very susceptible to the effects of climate change. So that also impacts the plants and just giving them an advantage when you're using that biostimulant on them. So yeah, and then if and when fertilizers are used, especially synthetic fertilizers, which is what's commonly used on pretty much any kind of agricultural product today, they actually cause the soil to deteriorate over time, and it leaches into the groundwater as well as the ocean, which I mentioned earlier. So that's where we would come in, and we can process the sargassum in a way to make it a biostimulant. And since it naturally contains some of the limiting nutrients but also contains some sugars and other molecules that are helpful. Yeah, so that being said, we're not quite at the end of our research and our production process yet. There's still a lot of challenges that have been also talked about on this podcast with the arsenic, but we have several promising ideas and already solutions for these issues. So yeah, to summarize, we just want to reduce the negative impact that this plague has on the environment there, and also just help make some of the beneficial parts of sargassum make them available to the local farming communities. So a solution from the sea to the soil, so to speak. So that's where we have our name from.
Um, One more thing I'd like to point out with what you're talking about inorganic fertilizers, that I think is a really important point to make when you're discussing that most of these inorganic fertilizers are petroleum-based,
Exactly.
which is just another carbon problem. Anytime we're exporting more of these chemicals, it's not a good thing. And but that being said, Your project seems to be focused on assisting and empowering local communities, both farmers and fishermen, I suppose. Why? This is a two-part question, so, one of you can take each one of them. But first, why is this important to you? And how can Seasoilutions help and empower them?
So first of all, every project at Enactus contributes to several sustainable development goals defined by United Nations to make sure that we're working towards a better future. In our case, it is life below water, life on land, and economic growth. And I guess for every single member, there is an intrinsic motivation to make a difference and help our planet and the society to exist more sustainably. So that would be our intrinsic motivation. And regarding the benefits, so the closed loop use of algae creates sustainability for local communities, and the usage of synthetic fertilizers are part of the problem there, because large amounts of nutrients and other minerals, they leak into the ocean, they create sargassum plague at the first place. And on top of that, they're also the main reason for 40% salinization and erosion of the soil in Dominican Republic where we're working. So farmers would benefit by using a harmless biostimulant without the addition of artificially produced additives. And on top of that, it is produced locally, so there is no carbon footprint from transportation. On top of that, we built a network not only within local farmers, but also local universities like Intech, Loyola, which can support their agriculture significantly with their knowledge and research. Now, regarding local fishermen, in the first place, avoiding the appearance of these death zones created by sargassum and avoiding reduction in fish population means the ability to actually fish, but since we also plan to involve them into helping us to collect the algae for our product, that means also the growth of the local job market for them.
Very nice.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
I assume you're working with Andres from SOS Carbon on the fisherman side, who we interviewed earlier on our podcast. So part of your team finally made it to the Dominican Republic last October after not being able to go because of COVID for a while. And you went there to do some tests and get some samples, but also to connect with the local partners and learn from them. So tell us a little bit about the trip and what did you learn?
Yeah, I think it was just really exciting for my teammates to finally get to see the country after just 2 years of research of planning it from Germany. And yeah, they and we just really learned how open and helpful the people in the Dominican Republic are, and how just all people there pull together to try and get the problem under control without harming the environment even more. Yeah, and I think so in Santo Domingo, we started with a few meetings with partners we knew, the startup SOS Carbon, which focuses on fishing algae out of the water, which you talked about in previous podcasts. But they helped us enormously to gain a foothold, and they also provided important contacts to universities and potential stakeholders. And we talked to, like Daria just said, we talked to different universities, the professors, the students. We visited farmers markets, talked to the farmers about our project and our vision, and we fished the algae out of the water with the help of SOS Carbon, and produced a prototype, which was then handed over to some of the farmers who's now testing the fertilizer or the biostimulant on different plants. And yeah, so above all, we just really learned that the sargassum problem is just really pervasive, and how everyone from Uber drivers, students to tourists that were talked to knew the word sargassum.
Very nice. I hope this next answer is like 5 words long, or maybe even 2. But how do students from Germany and I guess Russia for Daria, how do people from over there decide to the work and do research on a Caribbean issue?
So yeah, I mean, team is fully based in Germany to start with, regardless of our roots. So one of the founders was a TU Munich student who traveled to the Caribbean, and he saw the problem. He saw the huge amount of sargassum that couldn't be right. And since he was already part of a great functioning team at Enactus working on different projects that later got cancelled, since they were a great team, they put their effort into the research to find the possibilities to solve the problem that he just observed. And the market in DR, as Nina already mentioned, for an organic fertilizer turned out to be huge amount of algae in the country where 50% of land mass is used for agriculture, and which is also highly dependent on tourism on the other side. And the project is absolutely scalable, not just for DR, but in other Caribbean and not only Caribbean countries, since they're facing the same problem. And yeah, as you mentioned, not just technically Germany, by now we also have people from DR joining our team in Germany. We have support from local farmers, we have support from local universities. So that would be a broader team that we have now.
That is very cool.
Well, that's a very well phrased response to that's a very well phrased response. Thank you for that. But I was really looking for something like because of the rum, or because it's the Caribbean, and just leave it at that. But
Well,
that yours
now
was a
that
much
the
better answer.
sargassum
Thank
there,
you.
you can't say anymore because I want to go to beautiful beaches and be on the beach in the turquoise water, because unfortunately that's not how it looks like most of the time anymore, or at least when you go and collect sargassum. So you said the founders were a smaller team, but now you are have grown and you're actually a team of 13 people, and you're from different disciplines, which is really good, because that's what you need for a team like this. But how is it to work in such a big team, and what are the advantages of being from different disciplines, and what is frustrating at times?
Yeah, so we have so many different backgrounds and backstories in our team, which comes together. Like you said, it just makes it just really beneficial for the product, because if you have an idea for a product, there are different things that you need to consider. So first, you obviously need a functioning product, for which it's obviously most important that it works and it does what it's promised, but you also need an overall business plan and a business model that needs to be implemented, and you need the financial resources that need to be found, attained, and also allocated. So yeah, and then you also need a marketing team which actually helps to reach the people and potential customers and partners. So for example, with my background in biology and biotechnology, I understand more about the product side and the production side, and the reactions within the soil and how that interacts with the plants, with the just the economic side of environmental part of it, whereas Daria has a better overview of the overall know how it takes to make the business work, and in turn we learn from each other, and I guess that's why it just makes it so interactive and so fun. But for the difficulties, I guess that's also part of the difficulties, because we do work in sub teams where we have experts on in certain areas. Like for example, me with the production side, I'm not as knowledgeable about other things. So sometimes when we work in these sub teams, it can just it just takes a little bit longer sometimes, because the coordination takes more time. And yeah, we're also all students, and we also just work on Seasoilution in our free time without getting paid for it, obviously. So sometimes it just happens that people get really busy, and during difficult phases like exam phase, which we're doing right now, it just happens that people are not quite as productive. And yeah, so because yeah, most people are studying full time, some have part-time jobs, and then also spending a lot of time on this project. So yeah, we can't always work at full capacity like someone who is just getting paid to do this full time. So yeah, but when recruiting new members, we're just really looking for team spirit and intrinsic motivation, because that's really what keeps us together, and makes us patch over some of the difficult parts sometimes. And yeah, people, yeah, it's a lot of fun to work with such a big team with different experiences and different knowledges, because I also get to learn a lot about business, marketing, but I also get to, use a lot of my knowledge about biotechnology. So yeah, everyone benefits.
Very nice. Thank you. Um, Maybe you guess, but maybe some of our listeners are students at different phases in their academic career. And how could you encourage them to take part in some kind of student entrepreneurial initiatives, or even creating one such as Enactus Munich? And why would you think that's important?
Well, from my perspective, it's not only a chance to make an impact on social and ecological problems that we're trying to make, but also gain a lot more valuable hands-on experience compared to lecture hall. There is a real startup environment, own responsibilities, a lot of teamwork, field experiments, testing, and so much more. And unlike case studies in the class, we can actually see our product, how it works, and what impact does it make. So that would be the most important part for me. And there is also a social aspect there, because through Enactus we get in touch with local students, we participate in many events, we find friends from all over the world and enjoy the parties together. So summing up, if you're a student, check if there is Enactus in your city or any similar organization, and just go for it. Combine valuable hands-on experience with contributing to a more sustainable future.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Nina and Daria, thank you for a great interview, and thank you for teaching us a little something. We appreciate that, and we appreciate the encouragement of when we get an opportunity to encourage young people, especially young people, encouraging young people. I personally just love that, and that's just a really neat aspect of what we do. But before we go, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think we just want to thank you for giving us a space to just talk about our project, because we're really excited about it, and then you just also provide some really valuable resources for us to work with. So yeah, connection is the most important thing, and you just created a space where everyone can connect about the same topic, and it's a really cool thing that you guys created.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to this. I also would like to thank you. Agree with whatever Nina just said, and I sadly really have to run because I'm terribly late for a working call, but was super happy to be here. And I will send you a follow-up as soon as I can find the context of the community I mentioned.
Thank you so much for being here.
So, what did we learn today?
The part where they talked about their project, so maybe you can tell me what you learned about that, and then I'll tell you what I learned about the rest.
Oh, well, they just said it's some really neat stuff they're doing, and it's a group thing, and it's all about relationships and friendships and stuff like that. The kind of stuff that you would expect to be coming out of my mouth, they were talking about, and so yeah, it was pretty exciting, and all, and I think it's a really good project they got, and once again, right there at the end, as I was saying, I appreciated learning from them today, but I also appreciated. Given we give all of our guests a platform to discuss what they're doing, but moreover, I appreciate the opportunity to give them a platform to encourage other young people and students to get involved and all. And that was the best part of this interview for me.
Yes,
personally.
when I was a student, I was part of a sustainability club, and it really, like the same thing as they said, you form friendships, you learn how to run projects in real life, and yeah, it really is. It was one of the more fun parts of my study experience, was part of being in that club and being really involved, and I would also say that if you're a student or a young person or an old person, like anybody, get involved in your community. Get projects started. Don't just talk about doing stuff, but actually go and do it. And it's so much fun. And how they're working with communities, and they're using the same technique as you working with the community. So that just tells me, not because your stuff is per se a success or that is the only way to do stuff, but I think they will be successful doing it that way. And especially coming from a different country and wanting to solve a problem not in their own country, I think that's the only way to do it, is to really have strong ties and listen to the locals in what they need and not just impose stuff on them. And it seems to me as that they are really doing that, which makes me really, really happy. Yeah, me too. And just want to thank all of you for joining with us and learning with us today. And we always like to learn with other people, and we appreciate that. I want you to know that the podcast today was brought to you by the Kimberly Green Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies at Florida International University and Seafields, and all who is helping us bring this to you today. I want to give them a big up and all that. And thank you for being with us and learning with us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in today and learning with us from our guests. If you want more information about what our guests talked about today, check our show notes for links and information in our archive. And don't forget to like and share our podcast with your friends.
If you enjoy our podcast, please consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can support us and get the exclusive benefit of submitting questions for our interviewees before the interview.
The Sargassum podcast is produced by Marine Conservation Without Borders and is made possible with financial support and consideration from Seafields and the Kimberly Green Latin America and Caribbean Center, U.S. Department of Education Title VI grant. It is produced by Jose Martinez, Alex Daniele, Cleo Maridakis, Francisca Elmer, and Eloise Lopez, and is hosted by Robbie Thigpen, Francisca Elmer, Jenna Cantuccio, Florence Menez, Cleo Maridakis, and Paula Diaz.
We will be back in 2 weeks with another exciting guest. The music for this podcast is from the song Them I Pray by Drizzle, the Rum Drama, an artist from Rotterdam. Follow him on Spotify and YouTube for more music. But for now, this is the full song Them I Pray.